G'day, Decrypting Crypto Facebook group. It's welcome to another live stream. You've got myself and Wasim back again for another episode to wrap up the week. How are you, Wasim?
Good, mate. Good. What a week in crypto it's been, eh?
Well, mate, a week in crypto is a lifetime in other markets. I'll tell you what.
Right. It's been a crazy week. What do we get down to? Like $18,000 in Bitcoin?
Yeah, we had a massive sort of pump and dump today, which is good. Everyone FOMO'd short, thinking we were going to break lower. We swing failure patterned the lows, pumped up $2.5 grand, and now we're retracing to all those single prints. So it's exciting stuff. But not as exciting as the stuff that we have in plan for the show today. We've got so many things. If you check out my tabs at the top, we've got so many tabs. And Wasim's going to lead us off with the news highlights. So, Wasim, mate.
Yeah, as always, it's always good to look at everything that's happening in crypto. And today's news highlights, like there's been some great news this week in crypto and in adoption. So starting with the first one, hang on. That's not the one I have. That's the one I have, Matt. Thanks, mate. So the first one that I have is crypto more popular than mutual funds among millennials, survey shows. So a recent survey by a firm called Alto, they're an investing firm. They surveyed a group of millennials, so ages between 25 and 40, to find out what they're investing in. And the surprising thing was over 40% of those people said that they've invested in cryptocurrencies. And more than that, they've also said that more of them have cryptocurrencies in their IRA. So this obviously is done in America. IRA is similar to what we have as called the superannuation fund here in Australia. So the IRA or what is it, the 402k. So these people have already started to hold cryptocurrencies in there for their retirement funds, and they are holding more crypto. They're actually more interested in investing in crypto than they are interested in investing in mutual funds. So as we all know, most of the the baby boomers and whatnot have all invested in mutual funds, have done really well over the 1980s and 1990s. But now millennials are looking for something else. And in a world where there's soaring cost, inflation, mounting student debts, millennials are finding it harder and harder to be able to invest. But they're also saying that they're looking at investing in cryptocurrencies over anything else. Moving on to the next one. Is Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy grabs another 480 Bitcoin, now holding 129,699 Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor has been under a bit of an attack recently by a lot of people saying that they're going to be called down on a margin call because obviously they've bought a lot of Bitcoin. They've got almost 130,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So he's been called out a lot. A lot of people saying that his company's been called on a margin call because he had borrowed earlier this year $200 million to be able to borrow to buy more Bitcoin, I should say. So what he's been defending that, and this week he's come out and said, you know what, he's going to buy another $10 million worth of Bitcoin. It's not a huge purchase for him. He just casually dropped $10 million in Bitcoin just to show the world that he still believes in it and he still sees the long-term future of it. And his company now has almost $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. So even if they get margin called onto for that $200 million, they got more than enough to repay that loan. So he said that he's done this because he wants to show the world what he believes in, and that they've all more than 10x their over collateralization now. And he basically says thanks for all the hate because it's made him Twitter famous. Moving over to Bank of America. Now, Bank of America says crypto winter concerns haven't frozen investor interest. And I can say, from what we're experiencing also here at Breakout Solutions, the interest has not subsided. We were a little bit worried about this, that when the crypto winter comes, there's going to be a lot less interest in the market and it's going to be harder to grow the business. But what we're seeing is there's still a lot of interest out there and people are still looking. So if you are interested in learning about crypto, can we get the link up for Decrypting Crypto, guys? Grab your free course and your free platform, Decrypting Crypto, where you get a free introductory course and a few other things in there, as well as the live streams and news and whatnot. Back to Bank of America. So Bank of America had a day recently, and what they called it was the Web3 and Digital Assets Day Conference. And what they found, they had over 160 clients in there, and all of them were still very, very enthusiastic and bullish about blockchain technology and digital assets. And then the bank has said that it is now clear that blockchain technology and digital assets ecosystems are here to stay. So, the banks are going to start to see that, they can't get away from this. As the old saying says, first they'll ridicule you, then they'll laugh at you, then they'll attack you, and then they'll join you. And we're seeing this. You're going to see this over and over again in today's news story. So the bank is saying that they are investing more into this because they understand that this is going to be disruptive to the financial system and they need to be ahead of it. They're saying that this is going to be the next, so they're saying the first billion, what they're talking about is how they're going to get to mass adoption. What they're saying, the first billion people are going to come to crypto because they're investing and whatnot and all the hype about it. But the next billion, so they're aiming at 2 billion users in crypto, saying that there need to be better systems to bridge between the fiat system and the cryptocurrencies. And this is all what this is what we've been talking about for a long, long time, and why we believe we are still so early in this space, because those systems aren't bought yet. The technology is here, the technology around us still is coming. And what they actually said in this report was that a lot of institutions and corporations are still waiting on the sideline and waiting for one thing before they go into crypto, and that is regulation. If you guys have been listening to what we're saying about, what we've been talking about here, a couple of weeks ago, there was a legislative bill being submitted to Congress. So these billions and probably potentially trillions of dollars waiting to get into crypto once this legislation comes. So moving over, KPMG enters the metaverse. So another very large institution. Last week we spoke about Deloitte now, who did a partnership with NYDIG Bank, a Bitcoin bank, to help their customers have cryptocurrency on their balance sheet. Now we're talking about KPMG enters the metaverse and invests $30 million in Web3 employee training. So they spent $30 million just to train the employees on Web3 and metaverse. What they're talking about in this article is that they are seeing that there's so many opportunities in the metaverse for them to use with their own customers. So they can meet with their customers, they can have experiences with their customers. They're also talking about that there's so much more potential in terms of healthcare, consumer, retail, media, financial services, where the metaverse can be able to connect even more and more people. And also, because of the pandemic that we've recently had, people are looking for more, for better experiences by connecting over the internet. And this is where the metaverse comes in. So they actually call this $1 trillion industry in the future. So again, more proof that crypto, digital assets, metaverses, gaming, all the Web 3.0 stuff is here to stay and is going to continue to grow. Okay, and I think the last one we have for the news highlights is Kathy Woods says crypto revolution will not be stopped. So what she's talking about here is that, what we're seeing right now, even in the downturn, is that a lot of washing is happening in the crypto world. So a lot of projects that are not sustainable, they don't have good fundamentals, are being washed out. We saw this with Luna, we're seeing this with Celsius, with 3 Arrows. A lot of these companies are over leveraged. They weren't planning for this type of events, are getting washed out now. And what happens when you get washed out, as Warren Buffett says, when the tide comes out, you see who's been swimming naked. Now we're seeing that the good projects with good fundamentals are still moving forward. There's new projects coming in, and we've seen this in the last bear market where good projects start getting built in the bear market, and they just start to boom and boom and boom in the bull market. So she's talking about that, this is not going to stop. This is what we've been seeing in the past, and we're going to continue seeing. I believe that's the last one for the news highlights.
Thank you, Wasim. Yeah, we're heading over to the Twitter highlights. Alrighty, guys. So first up is always our best friend, Peter Schiff, where he talks about that the Q1 GDP was minus 1.6%, and they believe that quarter two will be exactly the same. So basically, he's saying that we've been in a recession all year, because usually a recession is, it's called a recession if we have two negative quarters where the GDP has fallen, and that's obviously quarter one, and we're probably going to find out quarter two as well. So things aren't looking good. We're still talking about things such as recession, depression, stagflation. It looks like it's all culminating, and I think we're going to probably have the entire year. It will be obviously a bear market, and then we will start slowly recovering probably at the end of the year. Moving on to Michael Saylor, we did cover this. He obviously bought some Bitcoin. He's probably just letting everyone know that he, that it's true. It's never boring compared to the stock market. It's always moving up very fast, down very fast. He's obviously purchased another 480 Bitcoin between May and June this year. It's obviously reduced his average buy price, but basically he's just letting everyone know each time that he's a big believer. He's probably by continuously buying as well, he's probably decreasing his liquidation. And I think he mentioned before his liquidation is around $3,500. So if we ever get there, that's probably the end of crypto, but I don't think it will. So good on you, Michael, for keeping us all FOMO moon boys. Alrighty, moving over to Didi Tahutu. He's a real funny guy. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, check him out. Basically was made famous by selling his house and leaving sort of the corporate world and putting all his money into Bitcoin. I think all he does now is travel the world with his family. So it's pretty crazy. But he said, when I started mining Bitcoin in 2013, they called me crazy. When I sold my house in 2017, they called me crazy. Every time I buy the dip, they call me crazy. They will call me crazy many more times, which is okay. The crazy ones will. And then he's obviously just talking about how, the best way to, the best time to buy is obviously in the red, continuously dollar cost averaging, especially when there's blood in the streets. When people are fearful, you need to be greedy. And when people are greedy, you need to be fearful. So it's about changing that mindset. Obviously, myself and Michael, who have been through multiple bear cycles, knows exactly that this is a fantastic opportunity right now that we're getting. But unfortunately, people get into the FOMO stage and all the hype stage, and they buy at the top. And now they're obviously holding their bags and they're seeing their portfolio in red. And that's never a good feeling. But all they need to do is zoom out and see that Bitcoin goes up and to the right. Next one is Altcoin Daily. I think they're the number 2 largest crypto channel on YouTube after, or probably third actually, after BitBoy and the other guy. I think that we have a tweet about next, the Coin Bureau guy. So number 1 rule of crypto bear market is to survive. Basically, you just got to survive the bear market. The best thing to do is, I just mentioned it, DCA into the red. DCA as much as you can, and then obviously that gives you an average buy price rather than just buying everything at once, because we can continuously go lower. No one knows where the low is. It's always going to surprise someone. It's always going to be somewhere quite random. Obviously, some TA analysts say that they can pick it, but if you look at plenty of analysts online, you see that everyone gives you a different answer. So it's no one's ever 100% correct, unfortunately. Last one, Coin Bureau guy. It's important to keep an eye on miner flows. Wide-scale miner capitulation exists in the depths below the 20K service. So we've touched on this before, where the hash ribbons indicator did cross over, saying that this caused miner capitulation, because as the price of Bitcoin, even though it is $20,000, there's less rewards every time per block, right? So you still need the same amount of electricity to, you need more electricity, to get or to create 1 Bitcoin. So a lot of these miners tend to turn off their machines depending where they are in the world, because the price of production outweighs obviously the cost. So the cost that they get back when they mine it and then sell it on the exchange. So we are probably just at the start of the capitulation. Like I said, I do think we're going to go lower, but time will tell. I've got my eye on 13K, but I think that a 5-figure Bitcoin is still not enough fear in the market. I think maybe sub 10 would probably make people quite scared. And that's exactly what we kind of need. We need people sort of selling aggressively. We see a huge wick down, and then that's where you'll have all the whales jump in, because they know that there's too many people involved in the space now. It's too hard to kill Bitcoin. There's I think I saw a video the other day that adoption is maybe between 2 and 3% more than the 1% that we thought, and that's only going to continuously grow, much like the internet adoption back in the 90s. People thought that the internet was going to be useless, email is going to be useless, and look where it is now. Alrighty, we now are on to adoption highlights. I'll bring Wasim back in and I'll leave you guys to it.
Thank you very much, Matty. Always excited to see what's going on Twitter. And I think that B. Diddy guy was referring to the poem, which says the crazy ones will change the world. So I truly believe in what he's saying. A lot of people talk about crypto as being crazy, but we're seeing it continuously growing. Now, this one is a story that is close to my heart, being of Lebanese origin. Lebanon, as you guys know, Lebanon's central bank has declared itself bankrupt. There's hyperinflation in Lebanon. The collapse of the Lebanese lira has gone down. So most people have lost like 95% of their income, or the value of their income anyway. And as someone who's got family there, I'm very, very pleased to see this happening. Lebanon's university students turn to crypto as hyperinflation roils the country. So here we're seeing, as I mentioned, Lebanon is going through some very, very devastating time. It is now the third poorest country in the world. And we're seeing more and more of these countries now to turn towards crypto because it allows them to get out of the traditional financial system and the grips of the petrodollar. So what the Lebanese, the American University of Beirut is starting now a program where they're teaching people about cryptocurrencies. Last year, they talk a little bit about the history of Lebanon and some of the infighting and some of the civil war. But what they're saying is now here is what they're looking into now is that because of everything that's happening, it feels like one of the lecturers there, his name is Harry Halpern, he says like walking through Beirut, it doesn't seem like it's chaos. It seems like this could happen in any country, in any state, in any place, including New York. He's saying this new blockchain program by the university is now teaching people about blockchain, getting coders in that speak the language, they speak Arabic and whatnot. They've also introduced a DeFi, module, so teaching more and more people about how cryptocurrencies can actually help them, and hopefully this will start leading the way to mass adoption in Lebanon, and hopefully some changes in the government. Moving over to the next one, another luxury brand takes on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency payments. This time is the luxury watchmaker Breitling. They are now accepting Bitcoin for purchases. So they've announced recently that they are now partnering with BitPay, which is the world's largest provider of cryptocurrency payment services, to allow their customers to buy wristwatches, straps, etc., onto their website. And this was announced on the 28th of June. According to their website, they're going to be able to accept Bitcoin, Bitcash, Doge, Ethereum, Litecoin, and a whole bunch of, as well as some stable coins. Next, moving on, another country starts to regulate cryptocurrency. I don't want to say legalize, but I want to say regulate. And this one is Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan is now looking at how they can regulate crypto mining in the country. Some of the rules are, as you can see from that image there, it has to be done with solar energy. But the great thing is there's going to be no taxes on these on the mining. There will be some restrictions on anonymous tokens and whatnot, but the government is generally warming up to using, allowing their people to mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and putting in the regulation with this. So the more regulation we see, guys, like I mentioned in the first article, there's a lot of corporations, a lot of institutions looking for regulation to come in in mass in a lot of countries, so they can start putting crypto on their balance sheet. So it's always good to see more and more countries looking at regulating crypto. We welcome it. Next one is Nubank now allows 53 million Brazilians to buy Bitcoin. Now, Nubank is a digital bank, so it's an online bank, and it's gotten very, very popular in Brazil. In fact, it is now backed by Warren Buffett, who's invested $500 million into the bank. Now, Warren Buffett, for those of you that know, has always spoken really, really negatively about Bitcoin. He's even called it rat poison squared. But now he's investing and profiting from cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And now, so this new bank announced earlier this year in May that they are going to allow their customers to buy cryptocurrencies, and it's going to be rolled out in stages. So this week, they've announced that now there's a new bank crypto tab. When they log into the app, they're told all their members to update the app, and they can go in. There's some education there around it, telling people that, what cryptocurrencies is, how it's going to how it's going to revolutionize and disrupt the traditional financial system, and also allow their customers to buy cryptocurrencies. Now, Brazil is also going through some regulation about crypto, and that's, if Brazil, in my opinion, we may even see Brazil adopt Bitcoin as legal tender in the future. And if that happens, it'll be the first large country to do that. So this is very, very exciting news, and I love hearing and reading this type of stuff. Next one that we've got around the adoption is the Central Bank of Morocco to introduce Bitcoin and crypto regulation bill. So, we've spoken about, again, more regulation. The more regulation that comes in more countries, the more it's going to become mainstream. So Morocco, in 2017, this country banned Bitcoin, but it didn't stop the interest and adoption of Bitcoin amongst its citizens. And now they just said, we need to embrace this. And they're actually working with the IMF, which I found very, very strange, because we all know the IMF is against crypto because it's a major disruptor to its hold on the world. But they are looking at ways in which they can be compliant, bring in regulation that allows them to work with crypto as well as other countries. So great news all up in that one. And that's it from today's crypto highlights, or crypto adoption highlights.
Thank you, Wasim. All right, we're going to move on to market analysis and fundamentals. So if you are not a trader like myself, you might not know too much about moving averages and so forth, but basically in the history of Bitcoin, it's been supported by the 200 weekly moving average, and that's usually signifies the bottom of the bear market. But unfortunately, we've now spent 3 weeks underneath the 200 period moving average. You can see that we touched it back here on the Corona dump, back here in the 2019 or 18 and 19 bear market. And if I place it in log as well back here in 2015, let me see if I can zoom in to make things look a little bit better. All right, so it's proven to be good support. Obviously, we have wicked below it, but we tend to close above it quite rapidly. This is probably the longest time that we've spent underneath the 200 period moving average. So it is a little bit, it's very interesting because we're in uncharted territory and waters. So it'll be interesting to see if we can reclaim that 200 period moving average in the not too distant future. In other news, the Grayscale ETF was rejected by the SEC, and this is obviously not really good news. I do believe that once the ETF is approved, if it's Grayscale or someone else, we will see the market have a huge recovery or even possibly a huge pump on that day. But unfortunately, this time they were not successful once again. They are suing the SEC. So now it's that's probably what's causing a little bit of stability in the Bitcoin price. And we haven't broken past that, that $19,000, $18,000 mark just yet. But I think time will tell what happens. We do need some really good news in order for us to get to change the current market structure. We just need like a huge company. I've said it before, Amazon, eBay, Apple, to just say they're releasing some sort of crypto product, and it's going to have the same effect like Elon did when he said that he bought Bitcoin at around about 30,000 in 2020, and that caused the second half of that sort of bull run. So we need some good news, and until that happens, we'll continue being in a bear market. So moving on, and my computer's just a little bit slow with all these tabs, unfortunately. So basically, the next news on here is the 3 Arrows Capital is ordered to liquidate some of its holdings. Now, they do have about 3 billion to 10 billion worth of assets, which they need to start liquidating to pay its creditors. And this could obviously trigger a market-wide just more blood in the streets. That with Celsius having sort of their liquidation price around $13,000 to $14,000, I do think a lot of big dogs are going to try and push that down, because then they're going to be able to scoop up some cheap Bitcoin. So that's, when we have Terra Luna, Celsius, Three Arrows now, it just seems like whenever we're in the bear market, we just continuously get hammered with FUD and bad news. And this is why we need something positive to sort of reverse the market. Lastly, in regards to some news, whoa, what's this? Definitely wasn't looking up jobs. Okay, here we go. So we still have some macro economic concerns with the potential of still having or going into a recession, depression. We still got stagflation, but in all probability, the Fed will continue to raise the interest rates through the third quarter to curb inflation. That's going to obviously create solid headwind for stocks and crypto, but unfortunately, recession does lead to unemployment, higher rise in consumer goods, $15 lettuce and so forth. But like I said, this is just normal when we are going through a bear market. All we hear is negative news, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, as there always is. All right, well, let's jump into the fundamentals now. We do have the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, if it would like to load properly. I know that it was at an 11, right? So, there we go. It's come and gone. So we're at an 11, which is still quite low. We've been hovering between like 7 and 11 for a few weeks now. We're still, like I said, at a good DCA price, in my personal opinion, not financial advice. But obviously, we want to start seeing these colors go back into the light to then signify we are back into a bull run. Moving on, we have some Glassnode charts. Hopefully they're all, they should have been loaded, but for some reason the computer's killing. But basically this one is just the distribution and percentage of balance on exchanges. This continuously drops, as you can see. So either large entities are buying, big whales are buying, taking it off exchanges, putting it on their hard wallets. But as we know, as there are less and as we have less and less Bitcoin on exchanges, this creates even more market volatility, because it's easy to push the price in either direction because there's not a lot of money on the order books. So like I said, this is usually a good sign, but we want to sort of start seeing a reversal. When we start seeing a reversal here, it just usually means that people are getting ready to sell. As you can see, they think that the price is too overinflated and they want to start taking out their profits. Moving on, we can see that the number, oh my God, we can see that the number of small wallet addresses keeps going up. This is really one that I take, I look at, because usually you want to sort of see the inverse with the larger addresses and wallet addresses, because right now they're still in distribution phase. They're still kind of selling along with like miners that are trying to pay for their production costs. So when we see sort of retail investors like you yourselves and myself, mum and pops and so forth, they're buying at this price. They don't really care, but that's fine if they're buying, minute quantities or dollar cost averaging. But we can see that number of addresses with the non-zero balance keeps going up, which is good, because that just means that, the inception of Bitcoin is, growing, and we want to see these addresses continuously grow, because that means more people are getting into the market, which is great. Hash ribbons indicator, we did talk about that before, how we're still sort of in the minor capitulation. These are the red vertical lines that will pop up in a second, signify minor capitulation. Once that goes, it basically means it's a great time to get back into the market. So we're still not probably at the best time to sort of get in with like a large chunk of money. It never is a good time anyways. It's always best to dollar cost average. But obviously once we start seeing clear waters, that we can see that the bull run is ready to go again. Number of addresses with zero, more than, we just sort of covered that. This is just a repeater. So let me go to the next tab, looking at the funding rates. So funding rates is sort of, we've kind of got an average of negative funding rates, which means you're getting paid to hold longs, and also some negative funding rates, which means that you're getting sorry, you got some positive funding rates, which means you're also getting paid to hold your shorts. So it's kind of mixed around the board. We're kind of just like in no man's land. I think we're going to get a decisive decision in a second. I will show you guys one thing right now on my own personal chart. I know it gets a little bit messy, but this is the current price action. So yeah, we had this Wyckoff accumulation early this morning. And if you don't know what a Wyckoff accumulation is, basically there it is. You can see that this pattern is very similar to the pattern that I just showed you. Okay, so it came up, down, up, down, up, down, right? It's basically making people very scared that we're going to start breaking down below the previous lows that we had, a couple of weeks ago right here. So people start FOMOing short, and then basically we just have lots of huge orders come in, pump up the price, but we've retraced since then. So right now we're hovering around the golden pocket, right? So golden pocket is a Fibonacci retracement from the low to the high. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a bounce, but things are still looking quite bearish. We'll probably maybe come up to the 382 up here, which is around 20K, which, that might also line up with the VWAP right here. So look for a rejection, possibly around 20K, and then, we might see more of a sell-off. Lastly, I want you guys to put the 13th of July on your date. That's only about 12 days away, because that's when the new CPI data comes in regards to cost of goods and services and all that type of stuff. And that's going to be really interesting, because once again, more negative news is just going to lead to, people panicking, taking money out of the market because they need to pay for, rent, fuel, to eat. So that's going to be really interesting to see what the data shows, because the higher this goes, the worse news that we're getting. And lastly, just a summary of things that we're seeing on chain. Okay, we can see the miners are moderately selling, where we've spoken about. We can see that on-chain indicators, the Newpool, we didn't cover that today, but basically people are still quite they're in the red in regards to, because most people, retail investors, bought and FOMO'd in during the bull market. Now they're holding, they're at a loss. So the net unrealized profit and loss is in the red, which just means that right now it's probably not a good time to sell if you bought at the top. And not financial advice, but you'd be making a realized loss rather than holding your Bitcoin, because no matter what amount of Bitcoin that you had, it's going to stay the same. If you've got one Bitcoin, it's still one Bitcoin, no matter what the price is. So right now I wouldn't be selling anything. It's a bit too late, so to speak. But we can see that everything else, sentiment is quite negative on premiums and all that type of stuff. You can see by the little smiley faces, it tells you basically, what these indicators, how things are sort of feeling. We want to see lots of green, but unfortunately, we're seeing more reds and oranges than we are seeing greens. Well, that is it for the market analysis and fundamentals. So I'll bring Wasim back in, and we'll wrap things up with some updates.
Thank you, Matty. So what's your conclusion for the week?
I think I'm going to bring up my chart one more time, because I think it is quite important. If we kind of zoom out a little bit, Bitcoin is, I guess, stuck in this little bit of a pennant, a bear pennant, because we are sort of, is still making lower lows and lower highs. So we might sort of be stuck in this range for a little bit longer, and then more than likely we'll probably end up breaking down. And the target for this, normally you go for the width of the pennant, and depending where we break down, it's around that sort of $14,500 mark, which is something that I'm looking at. But yeah, I think this pattern will definitely be decisive, but it's not looking good if I'm still being honest. How about yourself? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, obviously the technical and the price action is not very encouraging right now. But for me, and as we always teach you, Breakout Solutions, it's about the long term. And long term, we're seeing so many things happening at the fundamental and in the adoption, in an adoption area, that I think long term, once the economy starts to recover, we'll start seeing some really big gains in crypto and Bitcoin. This is uncharted territory, as you said. This is the first time that Bitcoin does actually go through a recession. So it's interesting to see how it behaves. But it's just a bear market. But the whole world is going through a hard time, right?
100%. Totally agree. But at the end of the day, we keep saying it. All you need to do is go to the BLX chart, the Brave New Liquid Index chart, and if you just throw it on the monthly, you can see that if you zoom out, Bitcoin goes up and to the right. We're kind of looking bad right now, but it's not the end of the world, and it will eventually recover. It might take longer than you think. You might see some red. Your portfolio might be red for a couple more months, but at the end of the day, if you have belief in the system and the belief of why Bitcoin was created, then remain in the space. Don't be scared.
Cool. All right, guys. Just the last thing with the updates is keep an eye out. We are going to be holding another small webinars coming up this month in July. For those of you who are in the Decrypting Crypto community, we're going to have an expert event coming next week on Thursday. We'll have some more details about that and the links about it on our live stream on Tuesday. But basically, we've got someone who's been working in the traditional financial system. He's a bank examiner for the Federal Reserve in America. He was vice president of a couple of large banks in California. So he's been in that industry for 20 years or so. And he's going to come and speak to us about how the banks work on the inside. So it's a bit of an insider view into the banking world. Definitely coming to that. We'll have the Zoom link and the registration link on that next week. So keep next Thursday open for that. We've also got, for those of you on the 1K Day Club, there's an amazing new announcement happening on Monday. So if you're on the 1K Day Club, check the community, register for that. We will want to see you guys there because we do have a really, really exciting announcement that I'm very, very excited to be able to release to the community. What about you, Matty? Anything from you?
Yeah, no, we spoke about that at the last DC live stream. We've got, a huge week next week. Lots of cool new releases for our 1K Day Club. So we'll be looking forward to sharing that with you guys as well sometime next week or the following week because, the price of the 1K Day Club isn't going to be that cheap after we do this release. So, if you've thought about sort of joining Breakout Solutions, probably now is a great time, or wait for our announcement next week and then make the decision then.
Yeah. Now, we had somebody comment that some are saying 0 for Bitcoin. Now, I can't see the name here, unfortunately, so I'm not sure where you commented because we are streaming on a number of platforms. But look, for whoever said this, my answer to you is just go check out the Bitcoin obituary. Just type in Bitcoin obituary in Google. You'll see that Bitcoin has been called dead or going to zero over 450 times in the past 13 years or so. So I'm not surprised that there are some people saying that. At the end of the day, what we really need to understand is that right now, cryptocurrency and the whole decentralized ecosystem and decentralized cryptocurrency, which is the people's money, is challenging the traditional financial system. So there's going to be people out there who are benefiting, profiting, and making millions and billions, if not trillions, or maybe not trillions, or making a lot of money, even maybe trillions of dollars out of the traditional financial system, and that's at risk for them. So it's in their best interest to put FUD out in the market, to talk down crypto. I mentioned to you guys earlier today that even Warren Buffett called Bitcoin rat poison square, and he's just backed one of the world's largest digital banks, Nubank in Brazil, or the largest digital bank in Brazil, and now they are now giving their members, 53 million of them, access to Bitcoin. So I would take that with a grain of salt. Definitely, this is where education comes in. Can we get the Decrypting Crypto link up again, please, Matt? If you are interested in learning, understanding why we have so much conviction, I would definitely tell you just go check out decryptingcrypto.com, get free access to the introductory course. That gives you good understanding of why we believe crypto is here to stay. We have 100% conviction in that.
Thanks, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you next week and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.